Now, rising pollution is cutting short lives and impacting our world like never before. Now, WION correspondent Madhumita Saha spoke to Nobel laureate Kirk Smith about the challenge and how it can be tackled. Let's take a look.
Welcome, viewers. Today we are going to have a conversation with Professor Kirk Smith of University of California, Berkeley. Professor Smith is a globally recognized expert on health and climate effect of domestic energy use. For his contribution to the climate report of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. Welcome to the show, Professor Smith.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
Let's go straight to the question.
Not very clean by global standards. India has a difficult situation of having a lot of both traditional sources of air pollution from household use of biomass for cooking. On chulas is the Indian term for open biomass fires. At the same time, it has a growing modern sector and a lot of outdoor air pollution as well. So it's in a difficult combined situation. It's different than some of the Western countries that sort of had the two separately in their career, in their history. India has both at once. Well, I guess the best answer to that is historically we've shown it in other countries that actually controlling air pollution is not a very high cost compared to the growth in the economy. They're controlling, and the impacts of the air pollution are quite significant. Counted in millions of lives prematurely cut off, loss of productivity in the labor force. The question is it affordable not to control it if you count everything? And time and again, studies have shown, for example, in the United States and Europe, that the cost, which can be considerable of controlling, let's just stick to outdoor air pollution for the moment, is easily overcome, the benefit is greater. But of course, they occur to different people. And so maybe in one case, the industries need to pay to reduce the pollution, but the benefit accrues to the general population. So it's really, outdoor air pollution, in my opinion, is really a governance issue. It's getting the government officials, the regulatory bodies, to understand that their role is protecting the entire population, and they need to withstand pressure from the special interest groups to not control. It's not really an economic question. Both you mentioned India and China. China is maybe more wealthy than India, but both countries are not poor anymore. They have the money. One of the issues with outdoor air pollution is people think it's associated with cities. Well, actually, air pollution doesn't pay any attention to cities, has no interest in political boundaries. So if you look at the satellite, you'll see the entire Ganges River basin is filled with air pollution. You can't even see Delhi. Delhi's in there somewhere, but it's not. It may be a little bit worse in the cities, but it's really a regional problem. And that's true in China too. In Delhi is surrounded by brick kilns. It's just one source of air pollution. I don't want to blame everything on brick kilns, but any direction you go, there are brick kilns. You have to have bricks because you're building so much. There's no wood left. Brick kilns traditionally are very polluting. So any way the wind blows, the brick kiln pollution comes into Delhi, and Delhi pollution goes out there. So the other side to it is that not only is pollution not an only urban phenomenon, but the problem is not only an urban problem. We do research south of Delhi here in Haryana. It's about 90 kilometers away. It's not urban, it's a rural area. It's a pollution outdoor. I'm not talking about household now, just outdoor. It's similar to Delhi's. In India, add a lot to outdoor air pollution. We did a study in one of our publications, estimated that 25% of the health-damaging air pollution in India was from chulas, from biomass stoves. But it's a big number. And so the point is, you can't control outdoor air pollution unless you control a whole bunch of things. I mean, it's not one thing. It's not just the farmers, it's not just the vehicles, it's not just the brick kilns, it's not just the chulas. Unfortunately, you have to do a lot of things because all Indians share the same air. The Winter Olympics that they're planning, yes. Well, I don't know the politics of that, of course, but certainly there's plenty of pollution. I mean, before the Summer Olympics in 2008, the Chinese were quite worried about the pollution, and so they had an experiment actually run by colleagues of mine there in 2007, exactly 1 year earlier. They controlled cars, they controlled industry, shut down, the things in the city, and it didn't affect the air pollution much because they only worked in the city. They realized at that time they needed to control the air pollution of the entire northern Chinese plain, the basin. So at the time of the Olympics, they had controls in cities far from Beijing, and they did make a difference. It did lower the pollution. But unfortunately, many of those were temporary measures, and things sort of went back to normal, and now the pollution is bad again. Well, I mean, I can't speak to the cultural aspects, but the evidence wouldn't show that it does. I mean, it's not officially part of the Swachh Bharat, which is a big program, and it relates to garbage, it relates to latrines, but somehow it hasn't been translated to air quality yet. I think it will be. So, I mean, the evidence wouldn't show that it is. Well, I mean, air pollution overall, the two types, outdoor and, household, we call it, indoors, is together are the biggest risk factor in the country, followed by high blood pressure and some other things that wouldn't be surprising. Separately, they're, like second and third, and right now get approximately equal, outdoor air pollution and household air pollution. And so actually, the reason I'm spending a lot of time in India these months is because the Indian government is now trying to do something about household air pollution in a rather serious way. They've got this big Ujjwala program to extend clean fuels, LPG, or propane, or gas, as it's often called here, to 50 million poor households, BPL households, in 3 years. I mean, that's 300 million people. That's, this is a big program. It's bigger than, as big as all the cities in India together. I mean, India, in one sense, is pioneering this effort. No other country has picked up this kind of program, and they've done some very innovative things to provide the access and the financing to poor people. Unfortunately, burning cow dung is one of the most polluting, fuels around. We've been doing more measurements in Haryana, which is, everybody uses cow dung for cooking there. It's very dirty. Now, cow dung, I can't speak to cow dung for plastering the wall and other uses, but for burning, it's a really bad idea, and filled with noxious chemicals that we know. And so, unfortunately, humanity's had a long time on this planet, and many of the things we used to do in the past, we now understand are not all that healthy. So you create a social pressure. People then can say, no, if you defecate in the open to their neighbor, you're going to cause us to lose our prize. I mean, so that's what you want. And that would certainly be true in the city. I mean, what if 30% of the people started defecating in the open here? I mean, people would be outraged. Well, it should be that way in villages. Same with chulas. You should be in a situation where if your neighbor lights up her chula, you say, oh, wait a minute, that's smoke giving me smoke. Now, a problem is with smoking, you don't have to smoke, but you do have to cook. So you can't unleash, as I call it unleash, like that term, but you can't really take on this social pressure unless everybody has an option, has a clean option. That's why the LPG program, when it gets going and everybody has potential access to it, then you can say, no, please don't use your, open fire. The woman gets exposure to air pollution, and it causes her to have a lower birth weight child. Low birth weight is a big problem in India, has one of the highest rates of low birth weight in the world. Why is low birth weight a problem? Because it increases the risk for the child some people say their entire life, but certainly through childhood. So reducing low birth weight is a really important objective of the Indian health. So we know that if a woman uses, biomass using woman shifts to clean fuel, like air pollution, she'll have if you take a whole bunch of studies that were done and take the average or the best estimate, it's about 90 grams difference in the birth of the child's weight. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. 90 grams of, baby is typically 3,000 grams or so. But you're shifting the entire population over 90 grams, So you reduce the number below 2,500 grams, which is the low birth weight difference, substantially by doing that. Yeah, I think it's hard to deny that. Nobody in this hotel is using biomass at home. Or put another way, there's the top 3 billion, richest 3 billion people or 4 billion people in the world don't use biomass, and the poorest 3 billion do. So, by definition, it's poverty. The question is poverty alleviation the answer? And I would say that one of the art and science of public health is to find ways to make people healthy before they're wealthy. And then to keep them healthy once they're wealthy. That's another problem. I don't work on that end. Keep them from getting fat and other things. But I'm trying to find magic bullets to make people healthy before they're wealthy. We know some of them. Vaccines. You don't have to be wealthy to get advantage of a vaccine. Latrines, sanitation. But I'm thinking household air pollution is one of these. If we can find ways to basically move clean fuels into a poorer and poorer population, we can make them healthy before they would have been able. They're going to make the transition anyway. So yes, I think India does have the resources, the technical resources, but not quite the political will yet. One of them, how did we do things in the United States? It's interesting if you look back. Our Clean Air Act back in the 1970s. Well, of course there was scientific input to it, but the main impetus was the combination of the media and the NGOs. Basically, the NGOs sued the government. You got to do something, and the media covered this. And the scientists were there to help, but it wasn't, you don't get universities doing this. It's, it's these kinds of organizations. Well, one thing about you can say about India, it has a very vibrant and large media. God, dozens of papers. And it has a very vibrant NGO sector. And it has the legal right to sue the government, and it often goes, through the Supreme Court. China doesn't have any of those. Doesn't have a free press, has hardly any NGOs, and you'd be in trouble if you try to sue the government. So, in a sense, India has the basic tools, but they haven't, really been focused on doing it yet. You still see burning of leaves in the parks. This time of year, people are, burning biomass on the streets. Well, you can't have a clean city when you're burning biomass. But if you're going to enforce not burning biomass, it means you have to have good garbage disposal. You have to fine people. Maybe the rich people have to provide a house so their guard is not sitting out in the cold this time of year. But you see little kiosks with electric heaters for the guards. There are ways. It's partly behavioral change, but it's partly a governance issue. Year before last, 10 Indian cities popped up in the top 20. Now and all the Chinese cities dropped out of the top 20. So journalists call me and say, well, China must be doing something tremendous, and India's, no, it's just a matter of where they measure. They started measuring in Indian cities they never measured before. And so the Chinese cities weren't any better, they're just the Indian cities were discovered to be worse. It was a discovery issue. And so it's actually good evidence, good thing that they're measuring in more places, but it makes India look bad. So this is an air pollution monitor, a small one, obviously, not perfect, but it's not bad either, and it's reading about 146 now. Now we're indoors, so we're getting protected a bit from the outdoors. It's probably 200 outdoors. But in the air pollution episode in Delhi, this was 850 something at the time. In Berkeley, where I live, it would be 7 or 12. So it's different worlds that people live in. It's generally a little bit lower indoors, unless you have a source indoors, like a chula, then of course it's very high. So in a village house, this will go to 20,000 during cooking. So it's another world. It's the village house world, and then there's the developing country city world, and then there's the first world in terms of the pollution levels. In modern times, let's say since the birth of the modern environmental movement around 1970, I think Earth Day, first Earth Day was 1970. I think it's the biggest episode that we have on record is the Delhi episode. So you can't really say about the old days we weren't doing measurements, but in modern times I can't think of a worse episode. And it's a shame. I think now that I'm thinking about it, the demonetization thing probably just cut off what might have happened. Yeah. Everything got switched to it. And it's still, the papers are still filled with it. And of course, it is a big impact on the country. So, I understand that. It's just an unfortunate coincidence.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
For the interview, it was a pleasure talking to you. You gave us an idea how complicated the air pollution issue is. And I do hope the government as well as the public would benefit from this conversation, and we will move ahead with something positive in mind.